Okay, so it is Thursday, November 12th, and this is for Regional Cuisine. And we are in the southeastern states for this current unit. So today we are doing a cast iron skillet southern cornbread. So there's a couple of things I want to start off with to show you that a little bit of pre-prep type of stuff. So one of them is I have the oven on behind me here at 425 degrees. So I'm preheating it to get it really super hot to preheat my pan, but then it's going to be getting turned down when I put this in the oven to 375. All right. So I'm going to be using a cast iron skillet. All right. And this is just a standard 10-inch skillet. And what it means by cast iron is that it's casted, molded in one solid piece, right? So a nice solid handle, but this whole pan can get super, super hot. So remember that there is no protective coating on the handle or anything like that. So when this does come out of the oven after preheating, you have to be really careful moving it around and things like that with pot holders and stuff, okay? So the cast iron is great because it'll give it a nice color on the outside of the cornbread. And by preheating it, it's gonna get it super hot. Cornbread will cook faster, okay? So I'm gonna take this pan right now and I'm gonna throw this just as is, right? Untreated because we're buttering this afterwards. So I'm gonna put this in the 425 degree oven to get that preheated, okay? The other thing that we need to do ahead of time is to melt some butter. So a whole stick of butter. So we need 8 tablespoons of melted butter, right? So that is 1 stick of butter. Right? This is unsalted. If all you have is salted, that's fine. But we're going to be using most of this in the recipe, and I just have it staying warm on the stove. But we're going to save about a tablespoon of this for greasing the pan. Right over here. And then for cornbread, you need cornmeal. All right. So I've got here a yellow cornmeal, and this is a coarse cornmeal. Okay. It's not a super fine one. So when you're buying this, you want to look for the packages real closely because there is super fine that's powdery like flour, or there's a coarse texture. So when you're looking at it, right, it's going to say coarse right on there. Okay. So coarse yellow cornmeal. We want this cornbread to have some texture. We don't want it to be too much like a cake, okay? So to start off, it's going to be 1 1/4 cups of cornmeal. It's going to go into a large mixing bowl here, and I've just got a whisk going to stir this up after. So I'm going to measure this out. In here, we want to make sure we have a nice full cup of the cornmeal. So just like measuring out flour, all right? I'm going to level this off. You can see that texture of it, right? It's coarse, not fine. And then we also need a little 1/4 cup. So 1 and a 1/4 cup. Gonna scoop that. So that's going to start our dry ingredients. And then we're going to switch to some all-purpose flour, which I've got right here. And same thing, I want to make sure that it's a nice level scoop on the flour, okay? So you can over scoop. Use a little butter knife or spatula, right? And then we need 3 of these. So we need 3/4 cup of all-purpose flour. So there's 2 and 3. So now to this, we're going to need some leavening agents, right? And leavening agents is what makes things rise and puff a little bit, okay? So in this instance, we're going to be using both baking powder and baking soda. And we're going to use a little bit of sugar. Okay, this is going to be kind of building onto all of our dry. So this is not a super sweet cornbread. This can be made sweet, can be made savory. Okay, so we're only going to be using 1/4 cup of sugar for the whole batch. So we'll put that in there. So we've got our cornmeal, our all-purpose flour, granulated sugar. And then for those leavening agents, right, baking powder. So we need 2 teaspoons of baking powder. So the cans have that nice little edge inside. So you can scrape it nice and level. Right? So we need 2 of those. Then I'm going to use a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. So the baking soda is the one that comes in the box. Okay? And this is what's going to give it a little bit of rise. So we're mixing all our dry stuff together first. So 1/2 teaspoon on that. And then we will mix in the wet into a separate bowl and add it in. So leavening agents won't do anything until they're activated by a couple of things. So first of all, by liquid, and second, by heat. Okay, so don't put the two together, the wet and the dry, until you're ready to get it into that nice hot pan. We also want to make sure that we have a teaspoon of kosher salt. Same thing, make sure it's a nice level teaspoon. And that is our dry ingredients. So all you want to do is just have a whisk to blend all that together. And we want to make sure that everything gets incorporated really well, that there's no big lumps in the flour. And this will help aerate it a little. You want a nice light cornbread. But this also distributes that baking powder, the baking soda, and the salt throughout evenly. Okay, so that's all our dry stuff. So I'm going to set this bowl to the side and swap out a slightly smaller bowl with a different whisk to do our liquid ingredients. So for the liquid, it's going to be 1/3 of a cup of whole milk. So that's 1/3, right? 1/3 of a cup of whole milk. That's going to go right into the bowl. And then I need to measure out a cup of buttermilk. Now, buttermilk is byproduct of making butter, right? So when you take some heavy cream, you take that, you agitate it, it'll create a solid butter and then watery liquid, okay? This is that liquid, which is going to be great for our cornbread. So we need 1 cup of buttermilk, which is a much thicker consistency as well than your, I'm just measuring that right to eye level, right? Always do eye level to make sure you're getting accurate measurements. So this is going to give a little acidity into this mixture too. But you can see how well it coats that glass, right? That it is a much thicker consistency than the regular milk. Okay, so we've got our buttermilk, 1 cup, and 1/3 of a cup of whole milk. And then we're going to need 2 large eggs. Okay, so I'm going to crack those on a flat surface. Okay. Crack it on the edge, you get shells pushed inside. So we need 2 of those. We're doing those over here, just give them a quick little whisk to help break them up. So 2 large eggs. This is going to help bind everything together. So we're going to add that into our regular milk and buttermilk mixture. All right. A little quick stir. And then the last thing that we need is that melted butter, right? Like I said, we're not going to use all of the melted butter. We need to save a little bit to grease the cast iron skillet that's preheating in the oven right now. So just making sure that's getting blended really well. So we want to do most of the butter, except about a tablespoon. So I'm just leaving a little bit in the bowl here. Okay. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that pan out of the oven that's been preheating. Make sure you have some kind of pot holders. Steaming hot. All right, and I'm just going to let that sit on top of the stove for just a minute. But what I'm going to do right now, though, is turn this oven down to 375. So let that come down in temperature a little bit while I'm mixing the rest of this together. And then we'll get to greasing our pan in just a second. So now we need to combine the 2 things together, right? So our wet ingredients and our dry ingredients. All right, it's also good to have a rubber spatula handy to scrape this into the pan in a little bit. Okay. We've got our 2 bowls here. So we've got our wet and our dry. You can just add these in all in one shot. Okay. It's handy to have a little rubber spatula. We want to make sure we get all that yumminess in there. Butter, milk. Because it's Southern, it's definitely not a low-fat recipe, but it's okay. That's what makes it good. Right? Now we just want to thoroughly mix everything together. And I like a whisk for this because it is a batter that's on the thinner side. But you can do it with a spatula, but just make sure you're scraping really good, checking the bottom and the sides of that bowl. Make sure you're not leaving any dry spots of the cornmeal mixture. So you can see that batter. Like I said, it is thinner. It's kind of like a pancake batter, right? Waffle batter. Now at this point, you can make this either, more sweeter. You could add a little more sugar, right? You could add some sugar and things on top before it goes in the oven. You can also make this savory, even with just that small amount of sugar in there. It can still be savory. So you can slice up some jalapeno peppers. You could put in some cheddar cheese, right? Anything to make it more fun. So you can do some colored, bell pepper, sweet peppers and things too for color, some red ones and yellow and orange and things, or green peppers. But you can make it spicy, you can make it sweet. So this is why this recipe is a really good neutral cornbread recipe that you can make either way, right? But doing it in the cast iron skillet too, it's a great camping recipe. So now, grab a little trivet, right? This is like to put hot things on, right? And a pot holder on top. So just want to make sure that this is really well protected on the counter. I'm going to put in the pan here so I can show you filling the pan and greasing it. Now, like I said, this is going to be super, super hot, okay? So you don't want to touch this pan with your bare hands at all, right? Like I said, this can be done for camping. You could preheat the pan in a campfire and do it that way. So now I've got that last little bit, a tablespoon of that melted butter and a pastry brush. Right? And it's actually still so hot that this pan is sizzling a little bit. It's kind of hard for you guys to hear, but you can probably see it just sizzling a little. There we go. Right. Now I'm just going to take this brush, and you make sure that you're not using a plastic brush because this pan is so hot. Use a bristled style pastry brush. Okay. And some of this butter will get pushed up when I put the batter in. Okay, it's going to bake right into there. Okay. Just remember, don't touch the actual pan. So now I'm going to take and pour our batter straight into the hot pan. That's why you want a nice rubber spatula. Scrape that bowl really well. And then when you do this, you will see some butter coming up around the edges. That's okay. It's just going to make a nice little crispy edge there. All right. Now with your spatula, just come in and level this out just a little bit. Right. And it's actually so hot that it's starting to bake already on the outside edge, right? But that's what we want. We want this pan to be nice and hot. If I put this into a cold pan, it tends to stick with cornbread, okay? So this is gonna go right back into that oven that is now at 375 degrees. And this is gonna bake about 20 minutes. Don't worry, I have one done to show you. We'll get to that in a minute. So to go with this, I'm going to keep this one as a sweet one because I didn't put anything spicy in there, right? But I do want to have a little something to put on top for flavor, okay? A little bit of butter with some cornbread is a great little touch. So we're going to do a little cinnamon honey butter. So what I've got here is just half a stick of butter that's been softening up all day. You can soften in the microwave like 10 seconds at a time, but just make sure not to melt the butter, right? We want it soft, not melted, right? So you can see, right, just enough so that I can take the spoon here and smush it, right? So it'll be spreadable, but not melted, okay? So what I'm going to do is I've got a half a stick, so about 4 tablespoons worth of butter. I'm going to do about a tablespoon's worth of honey. Now, this is one of those things I like to do by taste, right? It does make it easier if you put your honey upside down for a little bit first to get it to pour out, okay? So you're going to stir that honey in, and I'm going to add in about a 1/4 teaspoon's worth of cinnamon. And this is going to help give it some flavor, but it's also going to give it a nice little color too. Smells really good. So this is something you can serve with your cornbread, especially when it's warm out of the oven. Like I said, you can take a little taste. I'm going to put a little bit more honey in. Not much, another teaspoon's worth. Got plenty of cinnamon to it. That honey will help make it nice and easy to spread also. And this can be safe. So if you have leftovers of this, you can store this in the fridge for up to a couple of weeks and just soften it back up. Let it sit out for a little while beforehand, right? So that is that cinnamon honey butter. Okay? You can use this for dinner rolls, sweet rolls. So I'm going to grab my finished cornbread. So once the cornbread's done in the pan, right, it's going to take about 20 minutes, 25 minutes in the oven total, which will put us still a ways out. So that's why I have one that's already done for you here. Now, when it's done, you want to let it rest in the pan for a good 10, 15 minutes or so before you try to get it out. To loosen around the outside edges, you can just use a little butter knife just to kind of run it around the outside. Okay, so if this was still in the pan, I would just come around the outside edge real quick. Make sure that it's loose beforehand. Okay, and then you want to use cooling racks to flip it out. So pot holders on, put the cooling rack on top of the pan, flip your pan, and let it cool completely. Okay. If you choose, you can also serve it straight out of the skillet, right? Just set the skillet on a trivet, something that won't get damaged by the heat, and you can slice it right in the pan, okay? So this is the finished cornbread, right? Makes a good size, like I said, with that 10-inch, and then you want to be able to cut it and serve it up into slices, right? So you slice it up into little wedges, like a piece of pie. One of the easiest ways to do your cutting, to start off with when you're trying to keep equal size portions, right, for the holidays and things, is to cut it first into a plus sign, right? So I'm going to come halfway, and I'm using a serrated knife, okay, with the teeth on there, so it's less likely to damage than a straight knife, okay? I'm just going to come down, use that little bit of that sawing motion, right? So that'll give me my 4 pieces, all right? So you can see that there. Now, to divide this up, you can get easily 3 to 4 pieces out of each little quarter. Okay, so I'm going to do 3. We're just going to eyeball this and try and get them all about the same size, right? But this is just as like if you were cutting a pie. You divide it into that 4 first, makes it much easier to visually divide the quarters into 3 slices. Okay. It makes it a little easier for storing away leftovers. So this cornbread will be good for a couple of days easily. You may want to store it in the fridge to help keep it fresh. You can also freeze it and then pull it out for another meal. You know, nice cold day, maybe heat up some chili or something like that, right? So for our cornbread, just to give this a nice little finish here, take a nice slice of it. And then we're going to use a little bit of our cinnamon honey butter. You can put it on top, or you can put it on the edge of the plate. You get real fancy and you could pipe this with a piping bag, right? But that way you can let people just kind of go in and spread it on themselves, right? And if this was still warm from the oven, that butter will melt right into it. This one's been sitting out for a little while, but you could definitely even just warm it up slightly in the oven too to reheat, okay? So that's a nice basic skillet cornbread, right? It's fast. Like I said, it only takes about 20 minutes in the oven to bake, but the key to that is definitely preheating that pan, getting it good and hot, buttering it well, right? Real butter. Putting your batter into that super hot pan will help set it up really quickly, okay? Like I said, it's great, you know, for a couple of days. You can definitely freeze it. It'll thaw quickly. You can rewarm it in the oven, nice low oven, you know, 200, 250 degrees for a leftover meal. You know, but it pairs well with any of those, you know, soul food dishes and things like that, or anything that's really spicy too, right? Like chilies and stews, okay? So that is the Southern skillet cornbread. Hopefully you guys make some for the holidays or snow days.